Hi guys, this is just a quick disclaimer before you go on to watch the video that I know that my tits are out for half of this and I know I kind of bumble on, but please stay tuned because what I'm about to speak about is very important to any art student. Thank you! Hello everybody and welcome back to another one of my videos. I'm Saffy Blanc and I usually post content about art, the art industry and life in general lockdown. So if you'd like to hear all of that, then make sure to subscribe, comment, follow, you know, the works. This is a massive disclaimer as well. I've already tried to film this once and it wasn't very successful, so I'm going to try this again because there's a lot of topics that I want to cover here. A lot of serious topics, a lot of topics that affect so many people and need to be addressed in the right way. So just bear in mind that this has took a while to kind of talk about excessively. Today is more of a serious video. It's more about a critique on the arts industry in the UK. I can only speak really about the UK because that's what I know. I'm based in the UK, I go to university, I'm in second year, I'm a fine arts student. But this topic covers all people in the arts. It covers people in doing fashion, design, photography, you name it, you know, it affects. I want to talk about how universities all around the UK are not treating art students fairly, and this has been blatantly obvious this year in particular. I want to talk about how lockdown has affected art students, and I want to talk about the potential future as well, regarding the art industry and regarding money and regarding finance. So if you're interested in all of that, please stay tuned and yeah, take a seat because it's going to be a ride. Obviously, I don't want to push anyone away who may be considering taking up an art subject. It's fantastic. Please do it. The timestamps will be in the description box below. As I said, I'm going to split this video into 3 parts. So yeah, okay. Let's just set the scene here. I'll start off with my personal experience and then expand on from what I know there. Also, I just want to begin with a general fact that will come into play throughout the majority of this video. I came across this statistic on the UAL handbook guide for art students that have just recently left university and are wanting to find a job. On the first page, they proudly say that the arts industry is being funded by the government and they are producing or receiving 100 billion. 100 billion is spent on creative jobs and creative careers. Now, I just want you to bear this in mind as we dive further into this whole debacle. So, when did this all happen? This began for me in early February to mid-February. Around then, this is when I started becoming more and more aware of the big, massive problems with the industry. As I was saying before, I am a fine arts student. I am midway through my degree and I go to a university that isn't specifically for art. It has other courses as well, such as maths and humanities, sciences, all of that. But still, fine art is still a big factor. During February, when I was still doing my course, I was putting on a exhibition, so that was quite stressful. And in amidst all of the stress of just general uni work and life and putting on exhibitions, if anyone has done that, you will know the stress. There started to be a kind of strange air in the university. So I don't know what is a formal way to say the vibes were off, but the vibes were definitely off. Lecturers in particular, started seeming very shifty, seeming very downbeat all of a sudden, and a lot of students picked up on that, but we had no idea what was going on because we hadn't been consulted on anything. I remember very distinctly, and this is where I knew that something had gone down. I was in the middle of setting up my exhibition when one of the technicians came in to sort out with the lighting, and the lecturer who was helping us goes,
"Oh, so you've heard about the news then, I only just found out today, I'm so sorry.
And then the technician goes,
yeah, we're all really upset, we're all really, it's horrible, I can't believe they've done this.
To which all of us students were like, something's definitely going on. A few rumours were coming into play here and there about there being a technical review and certain technicians were either losing their job or being moved to a different department in a different building. This was all hearsay, all rumours, and we didn't quite know. We didn't quite know what was happening, but we knew it was to do with our course. So then questions were asked. A week or two after the initial vibe change, me and my friend then decided enough is enough. We want to know what's going on. Is this true about the technicians? Also, can I just add, if you haven't gone to uni yet, then you probably don't know or are less aware that technicians are everything. Technicians help you make the dream work, they help you make stuff, they teach you practically rather than theoretically, and they are key in making the course fantastic for you. I have had so many technicians who I'm so grateful to have, and I've learned so much from them. So me and my friend decided we were going to go and ask our technicians plain and straight what the crack was, because the lecturers hadn't said anything, we weren't getting any emails, and we just wanted to know. This technical review's recent proposal, and I say proposal because a lot of people from high up say, oh, well, it's not official, it's a proposal. Hun, this technical review has led on to a proposal which basically suggests that they are cutting around about half of the technicians in my department. Originally, I think we had 10 technicians between the fine art department and the graphic design department, and now that was getting cut. This is all theoretically because it's a proposal, but the time to reevaluate the proposal was very short. This proposal had been made and then would have been finalised end of March, which isn't a lot of time, you know, to reevaluate. So that kind of suggests to me that this was the final plan. This was the final proposal for my department by almost half, which means that there is basically not going to be a lot of contact time between technicians and students. They're going to get even less contact time than we had already, which already was not that much. It was already apparent that we needed more technicians, and yet we seem to be cutting them even further. Certain technicians who were going to lose their job or were proposed to lose their job were also the only technician in their department for a specific workshop. So for example, the sculpture technician was no longer going to be there, leaving there to be no sculpture technician. Same goes for printmaking, painting, and papermaking. We have all of these workshops, and yet they were proposing to get rid of those technicians. Now that suggests to me that they were trying to get rid of the workshops as a whole. Now, as you can probably imagine, hearing this midway through your art course is pretty fucking alarming, to say the least. Considering a lot of my friends just do sculpture and are really good at it, and then the fact that we may lose the only sculpture technician when firstly they advertise sculpture on our course, so that is mis-selling a course, and secondly, those people who did sculpture previously, for their final year, would have to try and readjust their whole creative portfolio, which is madness. It's madness. And what made this even crazier was the fact they had not told a single student. No email had went out within those 3 weeks of not knowing what was going on. Lecturers were denying everything. They were either in the dark about it or not saying, I don't know, I can't confirm everything completely factually on that front, so I don't know. But what I did know is that students had not been told, and everyone was fucking pissed off. I was one of those people who were extremely pissed off. It's really disheartening for someone who has worked very hard in school and with their portfolio over the years to get into a good university, and then for that university to basically stick the finger up at you. I don't know if you can hear that, my sister just turned on the shower, so sorry, I cannot film this again, but just bear with, I'll speak a bit louder. So, from a mix of being incredibly pissed off and incredibly concerned and upset over my course and upset for my technicians who would have been losing their job, I decided to create a petition. And this petition blew up. It went up. I basically at that point only knew about my course and kind of graphic design because we were both in the same building, but I didn't know this also affected a lot of design and fashion students who were based in another building, theatre as well, even journalism, you know, so many people in the arts were being affected. I made this Instagram post which basically portrayed how upset I was and how unjust this whole affair was to both technicians and to students and to even lecturers who didn't even know about this whole debacle, because the order came from higher up and the way they chose to tell people was incredibly unprofessional. So I wrote this Instagram post and the petition on a Friday night, and by the time I came back on the Monday, everyone was talking about it. All the technicians were, higher up had seen it, and they were basically trying to blow it off and say it's just a proposal, it's not set in stone. Considering the time, the consultation period was so short, the consultation period was about 2 weeks, and that's not a lot of time to make a lot of drastic changes to a proposal. And I just can't help but wonder, like, why do we need to get rid of so many technicians, lose so many jobs? So what I thought in my head was, you know, supplies for the arts, like fine art, materials must cost a lot. So maybe there isn't enough money for them to supply the arts and then also the many other courses that they provide. I kind of thought that was the reason. Until I made a lot of very lovely connections with people from all over the UK who go to different arts universities, who are studying and or were mutually outraged by this proposal set by my university. They also were claiming that their university were doing a similar thing. But the difference between my university and a lot of other people's universities, my friends' universities for example, is that where mine is just, you know, a university that provides the fine art course, there are many other universities on the list, such as UAL, which is #1 ranking in the UK for fine art, for Goldsmiths, which is, gosh, #14 in the world for fine art. During the same time my proposal came out at my university, I am also aware of the evolving Goldsmiths. This proposal consisted of swapping technicians' contracts from permanent to temporary. It shouldn't be acceptable for students to have to protest and fight for what was originally sold to them on a course. As probably everyone knows by now, March 2020, the coronavirus happened and my university was closed, the majority of universities were closed, and everyone was in lockdown, so that made it incredibly hard to protest. I know now that my university has decided to pause the proposal and the proposal discussions. I don't know how truthful that is, considering we've had no interaction from anyone higher up before. Just like everything else, the world's just on a standstill at the minute on that front. Except from actual degrees. So, as I'm sure everyone knows by now, a lot of universities are trying to promote an online degree show, are trying to ask people to then try and rework their content so it can fit digitally and then hand that in. Firstly, this is very like incredibly problematic because it's really assuming that people have enough space to work, are in a safe enough environment to work, have the software at home and materials at home, and that's just not the case for some people. Some people cannot, or are just mentally unable to work given the circumstances. It's a very hard time for a lot of people, and although I'm only second year and this doesn't affect me, I have a lot of friends who are third year, final year, and they are gutted that they are not going to get a proper degree show, and they are gutted that they have to now rework everything and learn to do stuff digitally in such a short space of time, which is really shit, because if you're not used to, you know, Adobe software or Final Cut Pro, Blender, whatever, then you are going to struggle. It's going to be a whole new wave of struggles in such a short amount of time. So currently on Art Instagram, many students from various universities, so many universities, are applying to this pause or pay pledge and petition, where they are basically asking for their university to renegotiate the plans for the rest of this year, to kind of sort it out, an alternative to a online degree show, or they have to pay them the final semester back, because it's not, again, not what they were sold when applying for the course. Now, I know this is different because no one expected COVID-19 to come along, but the uni as a whole is, again, not being very nurturing to students, they don't really have the students in mind when going forward with these ideas. I know with UAL in particular, when students were emailing lecturers or higher up to ask about what's going to happen to the degree show, or asking them to renegotiate, they were just being ignored. It's kind of like universities are doing this way to get out of extending the course and having to spend more money on art students. And it is very clear that bottom line is the money spent in the arts industry in the UK is very disproportionate. It is clear from these two examples that money is being invested higher up and we are not seeing any of it. That technicians are being wrongly treated, their contracts shifted despite how many years they have worked at the university, and even for lecturers to not be informed. It's just sneaky, unfair, and just completely wrong, basically. I recently read an article on Elephant magazine talking about this dilemma. The woman goes on to state that at the time of writing, the average salary for a curator in London was £37,000. Now that implies that a lot of people were working below the average, and considering it's a capital city and London's really expensive, that isn't enough to live a life. She then goes on to talk about her life in her 20s and how she was an unpaid intern at a magazine company in London. The magazine company was very bougie. It was a very top class, suave. They had their logos on pens. They had their logos just neatly printed on everything you can imagine, and yet they couldn't find the money to pay an intern. This woman was actually getting her wages from a retail job rather than the job she has always wanted and was actually training for. Now, this kind of shows that the retail industry, overall, it's just not very fair. It isn't fair that students and young people trying to get into the industry are being seen as second class, having to work retail jobs, having to really overwork themselves both in university because they are not getting treated rightly there, and also in internships because they are being underpaid. Now personally, I feel like if we are putting some courses on a pedestal and others to be treated as second class, that we should then have to pay less of a tuition fee. You know, and this brings me to my concern of the future for the arts industry. You know, what's going to happen after lockdown, after COVID-19 is finished. I read this article again on The Guardian, which stated that, you know, it could be really beneficial for the arts because it could take it in new, interesting ways because people are having to work at home, there are different inspirations, but it could also mean the loss of small independent art galleries, community hubs, small businesses that cannot stand the financial impact of coronavirus, which leaves only large white cube spaces to choose who they are going to exhibit. So then it could further reduce the diversity in the creative world, which is very alarming. I know all of these things that I've talked about today are really alarming, but they do need to be said. I went into the art course thinking that I would be handled well, that they would really steer me in a place that will get me to a good job, and for me personally that has not been the case. Maybe in other universities it's different, but from what I'm hearing from a lot of different people in different universities is that they are not treating students fairly. What else do I want to say? We shouldn't have this kind of hierarchy in the arts. It just shouldn't make sense. I feel like we've got our own unique kind of way in which money is going into different things. And if you are ever feeling like you are not being treated fairly, like you are not, like your course isn't giving you what was promised to you before enrolling, there are things you can do about it. Honestly, student union, talk to them. They are more than just a social hub and societies. They are here to help you and back your problems. Protests, sit-ins, I suggest you look at Goldsmiths. So many students protested and things did change because of that, which is fantastic. That's what we want to hear. You know, I've talked about this in another video, but there are so many Instagram accounts unifying final year students from all over different universities so that they can showcase their work. And it's fantastic. What we need is community between artists, bounce off each other and provide something alternative to this white cube, flashy, unattainable lifestyle. And there we go, that's it. That's everything I wanted to say. God, I'm fucking sick of my voice now. Honestly, I have tried to film this 3 fucking times, but hopefully you become more aware by watching this. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I didn't bumble too much in this fucking take of it, because the last 2 times it took I'm talking about way more positive things in my other videos, so make sure to have a look. And yeah, that's about it. Right, have a nice day.